Hello everyone, today I'm doing something I've actually never done before. I am going to take a look at Untapped GG and I'm going to see how the Edge of Eternities cards are performing now that we're almost a month into this set being live. Untapped GG, if you don't know, a great website that tracks a lot of players' stats. I use it personally when I'm looking for decks or just seeing my own personal stats on my account. It is free, there is a paid version, but it's a cool website. This is unsponsored. Of course, nothing's sponsored, but it is a website that I think is worth checking out. They have a really good add-on. But on the website, you can actually look at card stats, and of course, you can change the parameters if you want to go best of one or best of two. You want to change the ranking either from bronze to mythic, or if you want to limit it to only diamond and mythic, you can do whatever you want. Standard, it has everything else, although some of these might be locked behind a paywall. But what it has on here is just the card stats. You can see how many games are being played by people with these cards, how they're performing in hand or when played, and I thought that was kind of neat. So I looked through all of the Edge of Eternities cards, and I picked out the cards that I think are the top 10 best performing cards that are interesting, and the worst 10 cards that are just underperforming that I think many people may have thought would have done a little bit better. So yeah, I thought it would be kind of interesting to check out some of these cards. And without further ado, let's jump into the best 10 cards from Edge of Eternities. And I'm going to cheat a little bit with an honorable mention. I'm going to start with Devastating Onslaught. This card is performing quite well. And in fact, when it is played, it is winning games very convincingly. The reason I'm going to do this as a honorable mention is that it's only been played in 8,000 decks recorded between bronze and mythic. I'm looking at the totality of the format. But it does seem like when this card is played out, this card actually does incredibly well, 73% when it is played. The card is a beast. It says create X tokens that are copies of target artifact or creature you control. Those tokens gain haste until the end of turn and sacrifice them at the beginning of the end step. So this is kind of a cool, like, maybe two of in some decks where you can just end the game on the spot, overwhelm your opponent. So this is a card that I think you really got to keep your eye out for, and if you want to mess around with it, I think you could probably have a whole lot of fun with it. Next up is going to be the Planet Lands. Down there, the Adagia and the Uthros. I'm going to put these ones together. Of the 5 planet lands, these are the 2 that are performing the best. The reason that they are performing the best is because, well, the Jeskai artifact deck is in fact doing very well, and the Jeskai artifact deck is including 1 or 2 copies. I think it's mostly 1 Adagia, 2, and Uthros 1 of or 2 of. It changes depending on who builds the deck. But overall, these are very powerful. The Uthros is going to give you give you blue mana for each artifact that you control, and then the Adagia is going to let you create a copy of an artifact enchantment that are on the field. So you want to be copying probably your synthesizer, and then you get extra constructs, and then really slamming on your opponent, of course. It's a good thing to be able to do that. The next card up, one that kind of surprised me that it was doing well because I'm a little bit low on it, and that is the Lightstall Inquisitor. Now, a friend of mine is actually relatively high on this card. It's doing okay. It's seeing some play. 16,000 games is, I think, a little bit low, but this is going to come in at my number 9 slot because I think it does deserve a little bit of recognition. I think people probably need to start playing with this card a little bit more. It's possible once more sets start trickling out, we start getting a little bit of a better base for a mono white creature aggro kind of list. This card could see some play. If we see some new angels in the future, it's possible we might go back into like a best of 1 angel meta like there was once upon a time when Righteous Angel, something like that, was in the format, and that thing was brutal to go up against. But yeah, it's just kind of a card that's not very flashy, but I think it's just a solid card. It's a 2/1 body with vigilance. That's pretty good for 1 mana, and it's going to be taxing something that your opponent has in their hand. They do get to choose what they exile with this card when it enters the battlefield, but still, when I face this card, it does kind of annoy you. It's just a little bit of a pest, and because of that, I think people do need to pay more attention to this card and maybe start brewing with it a little bit more. It wouldn't be a terrible card to craft if you are looking at angels or mono white aggro. Next up in the, I guess, number 8, we're going to say, I don't know if I'm going to do an actual content, but the next one is going to be the Ouroboros. And I'm really happy that this one is actually putting up some pretty good numbers, 34,000 games. People are starting to play this card. And the reason is, well, probably Gruul Landfall or some other kind of just fun, go wide, build up a board, swing in with mites and other Gruul aggro cards, and this is your top end finisher, and it's just kind of cool. Now, people are not really playing probably the full play set of this card because, well, it is 4 mana and it does just tend to die as soon as it hits the field. But if it does stick to the field, this thing pops off. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put +X counters on each creature you control, where X is Ouroboros' power. So the first time it's going to be putting 1/1s, 1/1 counter on all your stuff. Next time, 2 +1/+1 counters, and you can see how it kind of snowballs out of control. And if you can somehow pump this up, it really does some pretty powerful things. When it is played, a 60% win rate, hey, that's nothing to sneer at. Following the Ouroboros, we have the Arch Enemy's Charm. I'm really happy that this card is performing well. One of the first videos that I put out when Edge of Eternities came out was the mono black aggro list, and it was running 4 copies of the Arch Enemy's Charm, and this card really impressed me. For a modal card, it has so much flexibility. Now, it is expensive, and I probably wouldn't be running this in even a 2-color deck. I think this is a one, you could probably justify it in some 2-color decks, or maybe some control 3-color decks, but you probably have better options then. This card just kind of seems like it fits right into that mono black aggro deck, and it gives the utility that that deck kind of needs. We can exile a creature or planeswalker with the first mode, we can return creatures from our graveyard to our hand, or we can put +1/+1 counters on our creatures and give them lifelink until the end of turn. Really flexible. Always these flexible cards are powerful in their own way. I think people kind of dismiss them because not one of these abilities really stands out above the other. But man, when you're playing this card and you're in those spots and it's in your hand, you're really happy that it's there. Overall, it's performing decently, right? 53% win rate, a lot less than the Ouroboros, 60%, but it is seeing a good number of play, good amount of play in 41,000 games. So in the end, yeah, a very cool card. I think I'd like to see more of this card. I feel like the mono black aggro list hasn't fallen off, but it definitely isn't at the same level of popularity as it was when Edge of Eternities first came out, and I maybe got to revisit that one sometime soon. Next up is going to be Servandum Sunstar Exemplar, another one that I think a lot of people are really hyped about because, well, this card's just kind of insane. There's a lot of text on this thing for 2 mana. It's a 2/2, Vigilance and Menace. That alone is all right, and it's a human knight. But whenever another creature you control dies or is put into exile, this line of text is actually really important and really distinguishes this card from other types of cards like this, because a lot of times it's only this line of text. When a creature dies, an effect happens. But adding when it's put into exile as well gives it that flexibility that makes it really hard for opponents to play around. So Servandum's going to be getting +1/+1. It's going to gain life. And because it has Menace, man, when it gets up to 6/6, 7/7, 8/8, very quickly in these Sephiroth sack decks, opponents have a hard time dealing with it. Then, if it has Servandum dies, when Servandum dies, or is put into exile, again, same thing. If it has 4 power or greater, destroy 1 target non-land permanent. So even if they do deal with it, probably it's going to take something out on its way. Overall, Servandum is just an absolute powerhouse, and I really think it needs to be played probably in more stuff. Right now, it is being played in Sephiroth, but I think the Sephiroth decks, in my opinion, don't really feel all that powerful. I did say to a commenter, and if you're watching this video, I'm very sorry. That person said, hey, can you play an Aristocrats Sephiroth deck? And I said, yeah, I'll see what I can do. Well, when I went to see what I could do, the deck just didn't click for me. I don't know, something about Aristocrats and Sacrifice decks just doesn't jive, and I really do want to enjoy or try playing this deck, but right now it's something I got to spend more time figuring out, or just get in the right headspace to be able to play it. But Servandum, I think, slots in that deck very nicely. This is only playing one. No. Sorry, I was going to say that's only playing one. Yeah, it is only playing 1 copy in the stock list down here. I don't think that's the case. I think you need to be playing more copies of Servandum. it doesn't exactly do the aristocrat plan, but man, is it such a powerful secondary win condition when you are sacrificing just a few things. He can start swinging in with vigilance, and on top of that, it has vigilance, so it can sit there and block. Man, Servandum's crazy. I don't know. Is it he or she? I'm not sure. This card, whatever it is, couple more to go. We're in the top 5 of the best cards that have come out in Edge of Eternities, and I think this number 5 deserves a slot. Ice Till Explorer. If you are playing best of one, speaking of which, these are all best of one. Best of 3 has a similar stat line, but there are some cards that are performing better over there. But this channel is now veering more towards best of one, so I'm focusing on that stuff. If you are playing best of one, you know the Ice Till Explorer is super powerful in the landfall decks. It just gives the landfall decks that extra little bit of oomph they need to finish the game. If this comes down on turn 3 or turn 4, if they've been able to ramp it out with a Llanowar Elf, man, you're in trouble. So you may play an additional land on each of your turns. You may play lands from your graveyard. What they're going to be doing is they're going to be putting Fabled Passages. They're going to be putting this one, what is it called? Escape Tunnel, or any of the other fetch lands that I'm forgetting the names of that I shouldn't be, but I'm terrible with names. If you watch the channel, you know. Evolving Wilds? Nope. Terramorphic Expanse. Evolving Wilds is probably this one. Yeah, it is. So they have all these cards in here that go and get them their basic forests or that one copy of mountain so they can play out their World Soul's Rage or Wild Ride, whatever they're playing in their flavor of landfall. And then they can, of course, pump up their entire team, including the Hydra and the Tifa. You guys know what this is doing. It's a crazy card. In the end, you should be scared of this card when it hits the field because you might die on the following turn. Number 4 is going to be a card that I'm very happy is performing well. Halia, Guided by Light. This card has made the mono-white life gain decks a little bit more resilient because, well, Halia has a very good line of text. At the beginning of your end step, draw a card if you gain 3 or more life this turn. These life gain decks can tend to run out of steam because they kind of put everything on the board, and if the opponent is able to deal with it, well, they're kind of left sitting there with one card in hand and they can't do anything. Halia allows them to draw cards at a very good rate, and I think this card is extremely important in the deck. On top of that, it has a warp cost of 1, so you're able to warp Halia out with just a couple of other creatures on the field, and then benefit from that card draw at the end of turn, and then it's still sitting there in exile for future turns where you can play it out where you eventually have 3 mana. In addition to that, she also gains life for cards that are entering the field, including herself. So Halia, I think, is going to be a staple going forward in life gain. If you have not built life gain with Halia, but you are a fan of life gain, I think you need to look at Halia from Edge of Eternities and consider adding this one to your decks. We're now into the top 3, and to nobody's surprise, I'm going to call it the third most powerful card. I think it might be considered the most powerful card by some people, the Pinnacle Starcage. This card is absolutely ludicrous. It is the card that has the highest popularity among all the cards from Edge of Eternities that I've picked out for this list today. It also has one of the highest play rates at 110,000 games being played. This card is a monster. When this artifact enters, exile all artifacts and creatures with mana value 2 or less from the battlefield until this artifact leaves the battlefield. There's not a whole lot you got to say about this one. Everybody knows what this is all about. It's in the Jeskai artifact deck. It's there along with the lands, the planet lands that I already mentioned. It is quite a monster, and that's all that needs to be said about it. Following up into our second slot is going to be the Consult the Star Chart. This one I think is maybe a little bit more popular in best of 3, but it's definitely seeing best of 1 play. I don't see it a ton in best of 1 personally. Maybe it's because, I don't know. I don't know what the reason is, but I mostly see landfall for some reason. I don't see a lot of the control decks these days. But this is just a really good draw card. The advantage of this over, I'm forgetting what it's called. Took me a minute to figure it out. Stock Up. The advantage of this card over Stock Up is that, of course, it is an instant speed card. Now, it does cost 1 mana more than Stock Up, but I think the flexibility of it being instant speed really sets this one, it edges it above Stock Up ever so slightly. And then going into the late game, this card is much more powerful than something like a Stock Up because of this. Look at the top X cards of your library, where X is the number of lands you control. I think Stock Up is look at the top 5, choose 2. I don't play it, so I can't remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. But let's say you're on turn 10, turn 12, something really grindy game. You might have 8, 9, 10 lands on the battlefield. Well, you're looking at the top 8, 9, or 10 cards, and you're able to put one of those into your hand. However, if you kick it for an additional 2 mana, so now you're paying a total of 4, you can put 2 of them into your hand. In the end, it's just a great card. If you are a blue mage, this is one that you should probably be looking at. The Esper Mill deck, which the number 1 card we're going to see in a second, you're going to have a good time playing this card, but any kind of blue-oriented control is going to probably want to be playing 4 copies of Consult the Stars. And since I've already kind of spoiled it, my number 1 card, I think, that is performing the best, and I picked this one because it's also kind of a unique card for the set, more unique than maybe a Pinnacle Star, a Stargate. Stargate? Is that what it's called? Starcage. Oh my god, I'm terrible with names. Singularity Rupture. This card is absurd. I constantly lose to this card, and that's why I think it's probably one of the best cards from Edge of Eternities. I don't know what the designers of this card were thinking, but this thing is just absurd. Now, it is expensive, 6 mana, 3 blue, black, black. Destroy all creatures, then any number of target players. Each mill half their library rounded down. I don't know, maybe because like any number of target players, when they made this card, did they make this card with the intention of putting mill into EDH, into Commander, and they're like, well, yeah, you can mill your 3 other friends if you're playing a 4-player game of EDH. It's not going to be a big deal in Standard. It is a big deal in Standard. This thing is absurd in the Esper Mill deck. What do? They just blow up your board for a few turns. They just sit there, counter whatever, kill whatever you play, and then they mill half of your library, and then they mill the other half of your library with the River Churn Monument. It is such an absurd strategy, and it's very, very powerful. It always wipes me out. So those are the top 10 or the best performing cards that I believe are from Edge of Eternities. These are the cards that I think you should be keeping your eye on, and the cards that are probably going to be seen over the next month once the ladder resets. So be prepared for seeing a lot of these ones in the meta. Now, let's take a look at the cards that are underperforming, the cards that unfortunately just haven't held their weight, just fell flat after Edge of Eternities came out. And the first one up really hurts my heart, and that is the Weapons Manufacturing. This poor card, seeing a little bit of play. 15,000 decks are playing it. People are trying this one out, myself included. I put out a video just, I don't know, about a week ago. I've messed around with Weapons Manufacturing quite a bit. It says whenever a non-token artifact you control enters the battlefield, create a colorless artifact named Munitions, and when Munitions leaves the battlefield, it deals 2 damage to any target. I love the idea behind this, but I think the card is actually just missing something. A friend of mine actually messaged me the other day and said, you know what, I think Weapons Manufacturing might actually just be a trap card. And maybe he is right. In my opinion, I think the card probably needed another line of text. I replied to his comment saying, you know what, it would have been cool if they added another line of text on the bottom of this card that said, you know, pay 2 mana, create a Munitions, do this only once per turn so it can't be abused. I think it would be neat if the weapon manufacturing card could also generate weapons all on its own. But that's not the case. In the end, I think people are going to mess around with it because it is a fun thing, but it feels really bad to play this out on turn 2, and then it does nothing. And then on turn 3, it requires not only artifacts to start making munitions, but it also requires ways of getting rid of those artifacts. So there's just so much that it needs to be good that I don't think it can be good. Next one up is the Exalted Sunborn. A little bit surprised by this one, not performing very well at all. It's seeing a little bit of play, 10,000 games. Now, it does win when it is on the battlefield, but in the end, I guess the included win rate is a little bit low overall. So maybe it's that people don't get a chance to actually play it out. When they do play it out, it does do some cool stuff. But yeah, maybe because it's 5 mana, the format is still just a little bit too fast for it. It does have the warp ability, but honestly, the effect that you would be taking advantage of when you're warping it out, if one or more tokens would be created under your control, twice that many tokens are created, might just be a little bit too slow and a little bit too unimpactful for the current standard meta game. It does have flying and lifelink, and it does have 4 or 5 bodies, so that's pretty great if you do eventually get this out on turn 5. Well, it probably can do some pretty good work and stabilize you really well against a lot of decks, but I just don't think you're going to get there. And even if you do get there against some opponents, you're just going to get Singularity ruptured and then go back to the Stone Age. In the future, I could see this card maybe seeing a little bit of an increase in popularity if we start getting more angels rather, sorry, or if we start getting more token created things. So this is one to keep on your radar, but for now, I would avoid crafting this or trying decks with it. All right, another one that is a little disappointing to me. The Lumen class frigate. This is coming in at our number 8 slot of the underperforming cards. This is the spacecraft that I was personally excited for. I know all of the spacecrafts have kind of been a little meh in the end. This one, though, I thought had some wheels. It is a cheap one. It has a station cost of 2, and it acts as a lord. The problem is, well, you are tapping down your own creatures. It is just kind of sitting on the battlefield. Getting it up to a 3/5 station with flying and lifelink for 12 station, whatever I said there, it doesn't really work out a lot of the time. And in the end, I think it's just like, again, you're putting this out on turn 2, very much like weapons manufacturing, and it's not having enough of an impact. Turn 2 and turn 3 are so important in best of 1 right now. You know, you're putting this out on turn 2, and your opponent has gone turn 1 Llanowar Elf, turn 3 Hydra, and on turn 4 you're dead. Or sorry, turn 3 you're dead. They ramped it out on turn 2, and on their turn 3 you're probably dead because that Hydra is going to be coming in with immense amounts of power, and this card just can't really stack up to that. So I don't know where the home would be for this one. Mono white aggro is a list that kind of sees some play. I don't know about that win rate being 56.1%. That seems a little high in my opinion, but it could be a thing. I haven't played the mono white aggro deck in a long time. What is this card? Toby, Beastie best friend. Okay, that's kind of cute. Maybe something to look at. Anyways, Lumen class frigate. I'm sure the ones that wanted to craft this one have crafted it. I imagine some of you have your own opinions about this card, and I would love to hear them down in the comments. Next up is the 3 CMC Planeswalker Tezzeret Cruel Captain. I think a lot of people, again, were hyped about this one. It is, again, a 3 CMC commander, or is it commander? Planeswalker, 4 loyalty when it enters. It has a static ability. Whenever an artifact you control enters, put a loyalty counter on Tezzeret. All of this should scream like, hey, potential, but in standard, it's just not really working. It's probably the fact that the artifact synergies are just not that great, and the artifact deck that is doing well, the Jeskai artifact deck, doesn't really care about this. Why do we care about this part? Search a library for an artifact that has 1 mana or less, reveal and put in your hand and shuffle. That deck doesn't really care about 1 CMC artifacts. This is kind of cool. Untap target artifact or creature. You could untap your repurposing bay and then do that whole thing again. But do you really need to be doing repurposing bay twice in a turn? I think you do it once and you kind of just win the game most of the time with the Jeskai artifact deck. So in the end, I think a little bit low on the popularity. Not a ton of people are experimenting with this card. Probably this is a card that's going to be more oriented for eternal formats. I think older stuff can abuse Tezzeret a lot better than standard. Next one, going to be the Biotech Specialist. This card, admittedly, I personally haven't played this card. I opened a ton of Edge of Eternities, and for some reason, I only opened a single copy of the Biotech Specialist. I've been mulling over whether or not I should craft the other 3, and after seeing the stats on this one, I'm not really sure. Now, the win rate, okay, when it's played, 51%, that's pretty cool, but overall, a little bit lacking compared to some of the other Edge of Eternities cards, and not a whole lot of people are experimenting with the card. But it is a really interesting card for this line of text. Whenever you sacrifice an artifact, this creature deals 2 damage to any target, to target opponent. Sorry, it has to go to the face. I think the problem with this one is that we just haven't experimented enough with it to find the home for it. Is this a card that goes in with weapon manufacturing? Or is this a card that just goes into a deck with Landers tokens? Is this a card that goes into a deck with treasure tokens? I think there are a lot of angles that you could possibly brew up with the biotech specialist, but I feel like people just haven't figured it out or haven't bothered to try to figure it out. I don't think, oh, it is being played in this deck, John's Sacrifice, but ooh, this deck having trouble. So this one looks like it's just trying to sacrifice a whole bunch of artifacts. It is playing weapon manufacturing, as you would expect. Tough Cookie is there. Rotten Mouth Viper, sure. A little bit of a trap card as well. I've come to that conclusion. This card is not nearly as good as it looks on paper. And then the weapons manufacturing just kind of struggling. So John's Sacrifice maybe needs just a little bit of a different take, or a little different configuration to be good. The biotech specialist, I think there's potential here, but right now the numbers are not supporting that potential. Into, I think, number 6, the Star Winder. I personally, a lot of hype for this one I saw online. This one is a pretty cool card. That line of text, whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you may draw that many cards. I actually experimented a little bit with this card, and I just filled my hand, like way beyond filled my hand with this card. 20 cards, 25 cards in hand. This thing is actually kind of insane, and it is nice that it is a May ability. So at the time when I did swing in with this, I had like a bunch of creatures that I was going in with. I only ended up drawing with one of them because I didn't want to deck myself out. But yeah, it has warp. You get it in for 4. Maybe on turn 3 you had a pretty good board and it's opening, and you flash this out, not flash this out, warp this out, swing in, and you draw a bunch of cards. I think the problem is 4 mana is a lot of mana to be spending on the Star Winder on turn 4. Yeah, you're going to fill up your hand, but then you're going to be discarding down to 7. And then it's going to disappear, and you're probably never going to be able to cast this card out for its actual mana cost of 7. So in the end, although it looks kind of cool, and I think people would like to experiment with it, unless you're cheating this out onto the battlefield as a 7/7, it doesn't even have evasion. There's no flying, even though it should have flying. Again, maybe a bit of a trap card. It's not performing well. Good win rate when it's on the field, but it probably never gets on the field. Yeah, in the end, I don't know. I don't see it with this one. I wish it were better because it is a pretty cool card, but I think we should steer clear of this one. I've kind of lost track. Did I have more than 10? I might have had more than 10. Let's just keep going. Thrumming Stone. No, this is the number 5 card. Thrumming Hive Pool. That's what it's called. Not Thrumming Stone. That's a different card. Thrumming Hive Pool. Another one. People said slivers are in standard when this card was spoiled. Oh my God, slivers are here. We get to play sliver. This is the only sliver, and it's trash. It's terrible. It's fun, but it's real bad. Thrumming Hive Pool. Affinity for slivers. This card costs 1 less for each sliver you control. Fantastic. And then slivers you control have double strike and haste. Also fantastic. At the beginning of your upkeep. Disgusting. Create 2 1/1 colorless sliver creature tokens that will have double strike and haste. Fantastic. The fact that you're putting this out for 6 mana, it doesn't protect you when you put it out. You have to go through an entire turn of your opponent blasting you in the face on turn 6. Yeah, what are you doing? So how do you get this out a little bit earlier than turn 6? Well, of course, you can ramp into it with the various ramp that is in standard. Or what some people are doing is they're playing Leyline of Transformation. When this enchantment enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Creatures you control are the chosen type in addition to their other type. The same is true for creature spells you control and creature cards that you own that aren't on the battlefield. So you turn your entire deck into a sliver deck, and then you play out a bunch of creatures, and then you can, in theory, get this out very quickly. It doesn't work. it's fun, it's silly, but if you went into crafting this sliver deck thinking, yeah, this is going to be awesome, I'm going to play out my thrumming hive pool and get a big board of slivers, I'm sure you've been sorely disappointed. It's just not good enough, unfortunately. Maybe if we do get some real slivers, this could be a really cool card on the top end, but making a pseudo sliver deck with Leyliner Transformation is not the way. Coming in at number 4 is the Synthesizer Lab Ship, the second spacecraft to underperform on my list. I'm putting this one here because I'm surprised that it's doing so poorly. The stats are trash on it because I put out a mono blue artifact video, and that deck is fun to play, and I thought it was pretty powerful. Unfortunately, the Synthesizer Lab Ship not seeing really any play. 3,600 games. Sure, some people are playing it, but there are no decks that are showing up here, and there's just not a place for it. However, I do think that there is going to be a place for this card. It is a 1 CMC artifact. You can play it out very easily. Station cost of 2 is very low, and that station cost is that station ability is very powerful. At the beginning of combat on your turn, up to 1 target artifact you control becomes an artifact creature with base power and toughness 2/2 and gains flying. That's pretty sweet. You can kind of dink around a little bit, put out some little artifacts that are doing various things, but still be getting in chip damage at your opponent. Then being able to get it up to a 4/4 flying vigilance creature is not unrealistic, I think. Station 9 is not too bad. It's also kind of self-fulfilling because you can be turning on your other artifacts with this ability, making 2/2s, and very gradually be stationing it up while you're protecting your board with various blue spells. So I do feel like this card can eventually see some better success, but we need to see better artifacts come into the format in future sets. I'm not writing this one off just yet, but I think for now, steer clear. We're now into the top 3. Do you have any idea what the top 3 are? I'm sure some of you will be able to guess them. Throw them down in the comments if you have any idea what's up next. Number 3. Ragast. Ragast, the deft gastronaut. Oh my gosh, a lot of people were excited for the lobster citizen. Everybody, oh, lobster, it's so cute. Well, this card sucks, right? Artifacts you control are foods in addition to other types and have pay 2, tap, sacrifice this artifact, you gain 3 life. So yeah, you mix it with your weapon manufacturing, you put out some munitions, and then you sacrifice them for 2 mana, you gain some life, you deal 2 damage. Hey, that sounds kind of cool. He also has the extra ability, or whatever Ragast is, extra ability of pay 1, tap, sacrifice a food, Ragast deals 3 damage to each opponent. So yeah, hey, kind of neat. If you have some munitions on the field, you can pay 1, tap Ragast, deal 5 damage to your opponent's face, and hey, look at that, you're all good. The problem is he's a 2/2, 2 toughness really is bad. Too many things just blow up things that have 2 toughness, and then that's it. What can you do? It's Boros. Boros is pretty good right now. Boros mana is great, but the thing is nobody's playing with this card. 1,300 games, just a disappointment. Maybe it's a commander card. In the future, I would like to try it out because it does look kind of fun, but I don't see it happening. Up into number 2, and I know this one's probably going to hurt some people, but it is Tanuk Steadfast Second. Oh boy, this card has not done anything. It is a 4 mana 3/5 Kavu pilot that says other creatures you control have haste. Fantastic. Then artifacts, cards, and red creatures in your hand have warp 2 and a red. So you can have some giant things in your hand, you can warp them out, and that's kind of cool. The problem is probably that it's limited to artifacts and red creatures, and probably the fact that it's 4 mana makes it a little bit rough. You're probably dead before you can get this out onto the battlefield. It's not really going to protect you against people that have gone wide. I'm actually a little bit surprised that the stats on Ragast are so bad, in fact. Maybe people just haven't really experimented with it. It is a mythic, but yeah, this card, did I say Ragast or Tanuk? Whatever, misspeaking. I'm really surprised Tanuk hasn't done more. I just couldn't believe it when I was loading up these numbers, and this was one of the worst performing mythics in the set. Again, maybe it's an EDH card. If you've had success with Tanook though, do let me know. I would love to see some decks that are figuring out ways to get artifacts and creatures onto the field for 3 mana. It seems like it should be good, but maybe it's not. And then the last most underperforming card among the rares and mythics of Edge of Eternities is unfortunately this little boy, Cosmogoyf. Cosmogoyf, holy moly, not seeing any play, a total of 700 games. This one hurts a lot because I don't know when this video is going to come out exactly, but one of my most recent videos, or a very upcoming recent video, whatever the timeline looks like, is in fact a Cosmogoyf deck. And I've been having fun playing Cosmogoyf. I've been playing Cosmogoyf alongside the Abhorrent Oculus. And yeah, it's not the most powerful, but it does some stuff. It can win games. However, nobody's playing this card. This card is just dead in the water. 37% win. Oh, it just went up. Wow. We're getting some new numbers trickling in. Hey, people are playing it. Still, yeah, it's just not doing well. It could be the fact that it is 2 CMC. In best of one, Star Cage is so prevalent that you have your Cosmogoyf on the field, but it doesn't matter how big it is, it just gets whooped. And then also, you have a lot of go wide strategies, such as rabbits are still around, your life gain decks are around, your mono red is going to have creatures that can block it. Anything can jump in front of this. The mono white token creator deck is just going to create a 1/1 rabbit and stop your Cosmogoyf in its tracks. So, as a friend said, this card needs trample. It probably definitely needed trample, but it doesn't have trample, and unfortunately, it's just going to sit there and do not a whole lot against your opponent. Still, I have hopes that this card can be good because I think it's kind of a cool card, and I did have fun playing it, but maybe you should steer clear of this one. So that is the top 10 best performing and worst performing cards from Edge of Eternities, as according to this guy, and looking at some stats on Untapped GG. This was an experimental video. Please do let me know what you thought of it. It probably went a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. I didn't think I was going to have a lot to say about each card, and then the rambling mouth just kept going, as it is still going. But do let me know if you like this kind of content as a side video in addition to my normal gameplay videos. It's try something else out for the channel, try something new, and see where it goes. That's it for this one. Do let me know what you think about Edge of Eternities, what you think about all these cards, which cards were a surprise to you, which cards are not surprising to you, and what you think of the video. Take care for now, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.